Hi, I'm Congresswoman Terri Sewell, and I want to welcome you to a special Hands Off Our Social Security edition of Terri Talks. I am so honored to have our special guest, and so in a minute I will be introducing him. But I wanted to start by just telling you why I'm convening this conversation. I'm convening this conversation for one simple reason. As a proud member of the Ways and Means Social Security Subcommittee, I know that Social Security is not just a benefit, it is a lifeline. In our district, Alabama's 7th Congressional District, more than 160,000 of my constituents rely on Social Security benefits. They are seniors, they are children, they are widows, they are people with disability. And for so many of them, Social Security is their only source of income. What the Trump administration is doing to dismantle Social Security is simply shameful. It wasn't enough for Donald Trump and Elon Musk to go after our health care. It wasn't enough for them to go and fire thousands of employees at the VA. Now they want to go after the Social Security benefits of our seniors and to cut the workforce by a sizable amount. You know, our seniors have earned through a lifetime of work, the benefits that they get. Don't let anyone tell you that Social Security is an entitlement. It is an earned benefit. You earned it. Every paycheck that you receive, and you saw FICA, it was paying into the system to be able to retire with dignity. So let's be clear. Trump and Musk understand that it would be illegal or unpopular to summarily slash Social Security. So instead, they're trying to make it impossible for seniors to get the benefits they are owed. They're trying to break the system. They are doing away with field offices, paring down employees. It's why they fired thousands of Social Security employees, and it's why they broke the agency's website. It's why they are closing field offices all across the nation, and it is why they are forcing seniors to make claims in person rather than over the phone. Yes, that's the latest. They've done away with being able to apply for Social Security on the telephone, which was a lifeline for so many of our seniors. Now you can only do it in person or with an appointment in person or online. Elon Musk may call Social Security a Ponzi scheme, but for the people I represent, it is a difference between putting food on the table, medicine in cabinets, and gas in the cars. Today, it is my pleasure to have us be joined in this conversation by former governor of Maryland, Martin O'Malley, who served as administrator of the Social Security Administration under President Biden. Governor O'Malley, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and thank you for your leadership. Thank you also for always looking out for Social Security. Your important role on Ways and Means. I mean, I hope the people of your district and in Alabama appreciate what a key position you have. And thank you for fighting for Social Security. I really, on behalf of the people all across the country that work for Social Security, I know I speak for them when I tell you how much we appreciate your leadership.
Well, I appreciate your leadership. As the former Social Security Commissioner, you know better than most the importance of this program. Can you tell us in your own words why Social Security is so important?
Well, Social Security is the greatest act of caring and compassion that a free people ever put into law. I mean, we made a decision that in our country, no person in their golden years should die in poverty. And that act was then amended in later years to include the truth that Nobody who, works hard and gets injured on the job and can't work any longer should die in poverty either. So the disability aspect was put to it. Then SSI for the very poorest of the disabled poor. And so this program, 73 million people receive benefits from Social Security, as you said, benefits they earned. So this is not a sort of giveaway program, far from it. It's a program that all of us contribute to. It's a promise from one generation to another, and from generations that have gone ahead of us that have sustained it so that it could be there for us. And for 90 years, Congresswoman, for 90 years, Social Security has never, ever missed a single monthly benefit. And now, with their customer base, because of baby boomers of my generation, I know you're far younger than I am, but baby boomers of my generation have swelled their ranks to an all-time high. But because of House Republicans cutting their staffing to a 50-year low, this agency was already struggling before Elon Musk came in with his team and literally with a chainsaw has gutted this agency that I had the honor to lead. Those folks, given the workloads that they were laboring under, and keep in mind, they kept the checks flowing even during COVID. When everybody had to suddenly evacuate, they kept the checks going. And but now, as you mentioned, we've seen the biggest exodus of staff in the shortest period of time. And it would appear that they are intentionally, as you indicated, trying to crater this agency, trying to degrade its ability to serve the public in order to turn enough of the public against them. In fact, I think they might even be trying to precipitate and cause a total system collapse so that then they can do whatever they want with the trust fund dollars.
Yes, I have to say, Governor O'Malley, you came in under the Biden administration as administrator, and you spearheaded some important initiatives to make it easier for Americans to access the benefits that they are owed. Can you talk a little bit about your success? I mean, it was voluminous, and my heart aches because I know how hard you and all of your staff, the team at SSA, really worked so hard to get to a place where you were responding quicker, that you were, every access was quicker. I mean, it's just talk a little bit about success under your leadership.
Hey, thank you. And whatever we were able to do was because of those senior executive service members there at Social Security who understood that agency so well.
Yeah.
And therefore were able to respond to new leadership and the new regimen we created, where every 2 weeks we would gather to focus on the pain points. The huge wait times on the 1-800 number, which was 42 and a half minutes average. It could be longer if you called it a busier time. It was 42 and a half minutes on average. They got it down to 12 and a half minute speed to answer. And we implemented a new system, went without a hitch. You wouldn't have read about it in the newspaper because they never report on the planes that land safely at the airport. We also were able, there was a huge backlog building up of people waiting for their initial disability determinations. In fact, more people dying waiting in line for that initial disability determination.
I know. We have casework to prove it.
Yeah, than at any time since Eisenhower signed it into law. So we broke, we were able to make that move in a better direction. The 1.2 million backlog, we started working that down. So it's still not where it needs to be. Sadly, it's spiking back up. But we also reduced the time it takes for an ALJ decision. That's when you appeal a disability ruling if it doesn't go in your favor. We shortened that from 405 days to 280 days. That was the best in 25 years. And we increased the timeliness of retiree applications and effectuating those application for benefits. We improved that to a 10-year high. So all of those things, though, have now been wiped out because of thousands of people at Social Security in field offices in Alabama, in field offices here in Maryland, field offices all across the country, regional headquarters. We used to have 9 regional headquarters, and they've now cut those regional headquarters to just 4. There was an article in the New York Times the other day showing field offices that had lost 50% of their staffing. Others that had lost 25% of them. You hear these complaints, I know, from your constituents, because we talked about the increased number of calls that you've received. So get this. This is what galls me more than anything else, is that for all of their talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, they're actually paying this already reduced staff. They're paying them with our money we put into Social Security. They're paying them to quit now. They're giving them cash incentives to quit now. The ones that are retirement eligible, the most knowledgeable people especially about keeping the systems going, they're offering to pay them, have already offered, and many of them have taken it, for a full year if they would stop working today and don't let the door hit your backside on the way out. It is appalling what they're doing to wreck this agency as the precursor to robbing it. And I do believe that the American people, thanks to your leadership and the town halls that so many members of Congress are doing, Hakeem Jeffries has called all of us, Leader Jeffries has called all of us to do a day of action on April 15th. But I know that all politics is local, and people love their local Social Security office.
They absolutely do.
The lifeline. So we're encouraging people to go to those Social Security offices and be there and be present and show the people that work there that you care about what they do and you're fighting to defend Social Security. Hands off, Elon Musk.
Absolutely. Hands off our Social Security. You told us a lot about the results of the chainsaw approach that Elon Musk has in cutting services. Can you discuss the importance of the telephone service? I mean, they turned off the telephone service. Now it has to be in person or with an appointment, in person with an appointment, or online. And I have many rural constituents in the Black Belt of Alabama who need their Social Security, who have, for lack of infrastructure, don't have proper broadband.
Right.
So it's really, really can you talk a little bit about what that decision?
Sure. Yeah. And there was a vote across Capitol Hill in the Senate about a resolution demanding that Elon Musk take his hands off of these cuts to Social Security. And you know who two of the Republicans were that voted for it? Were the two from Alaska. You think it's a hard getting access to services in the Black Belt of Alabama? Try it in Alaska. I mean, we're talking huge. You could get on an airplane to go to a field office, for crying out loud. It's hard to tell, Congresswoman, from one day to the next what the rules are in terms of how you access your benefits or not. What you articulated about the phone service is something. I mean, it changes almost every 3 or 4 days, which has created so much chaos out there. What can I apply for online? What can I not apply for online? I tried to go into my SSA account. I was locked out. I couldn't get through the identity proofing. They've now put in the name of fraud, even though Social Security has a level of fraud that is less than half of 1%. Mm-hmm. All of these announcements about going after fraud and identity proofing, people are showing up now spontaneously in field offices with their driver's licenses and their birth certificates to say, please don't cut me off. This is a lifeline to me. Here, I can prove who I am. So this is the chaos and the craziness. But back to the phone service. Ever since Carolyn Colvin announced the vision of what was her vision? I think it was called Vision 2020 for Social Security back in 2010. She was President Obama's acting commissioner and then came back and was my right hand, the Shell answer woman in the office right next to me. Our goal was to make it easier for people to do their business with Social Security rather than harder, to require, less of a walk-in traffic to the field offices, not more. And so we expanded what we could do online. We expanded and made better what we could do by phone. And most recently, we improved the phone service. We cut over from a clunky Verizon system to AWS Connect with basic features like people would expect from their own bank, callback assist or those sorts of things. But now they've made a whole mess of the whole damn thing. The wait times on the 1-800 number are now routinely above an hour. They, in the name of doing away with fraud, they said that nobody can change their direct deposit account over the phone. Their rationale for that was they said 40% of the calls, of the successful fraud calls, come over by phone. Well, 60% come over online, but they didn't cut that off, did they? Mm-hmm. And that's because for every one successful fraud call, there's 3,100 other calls that are just citizens trying to get their work done. So they've created a lot of turmoil. They've created a lot of chaos. And
they eliminated the Office of Civil Rights. Didn't they eliminate the Office of Civil Rights?
Yeah, super cruddy. Yeah, in addition,
why that significant?
Yeah, and of course, there's a whole civil rights component to where they close the offices and the mandate that we have as a federal agency to provide equal access to services across the United States, regardless of race or class or place. This is what kind of the second week on the job for kind of the puppet commissioner, the acting commissioner that the Doge people put in place, because the former acting commissioner, one that Trump appointed, who had been there working under the first President Trump, career civil servant, they actually forced her out when she refused to open up all of our personal data to the Elon Musk Doge people.
Absolutely. Well, that's the next question, but talk to us about
so then they replaced her with a man who was like 5 levels down in the bureaucracy and made him the acting commissioner. First time somebody of that level was ever put in charge of the agency. He'd never run anything larger than a 7-person office.
Oh my God.
And kind of his first full week on the job, he brought in the head of the Office of Customer Service Transformation, the man responsible with his team for making it easier for people to do business rather than harder. He said, "You're fired. Your whole team's fired. You're fired for cause. Tell all your people to get a cardboard box. This is their last day." Then an hour later, he brought in the head of, also an A-plus player, the head of the Office of Civil Rights and Equal Opportunity. Told her, "You're fired. Your whole team of 163 people are fired for cause. We don't need you anymore. Get cardboard boxes." And then with this scene created in the parking lot of people hugging each other and colleagues goodbye with their boxes of stuff and their plants on top of their hood of their car, the next day, that's when they announced, joyous news. We need to get rid of people at this agency. Yeah, we're at a 50-year low. We still need to go lower. We will pay everybody to leave at whatever grade you are, not just the retirement eligible, but everybody at every grade. So they created this hostile work environment. There's no other word for it, where they made very clearly, we can fire you. We can make up a cause. We can fire you illegally. We can fire A players. We can fire their whole offices. So take the buyout or walk the plank. And that's what they've done at this agency.
You know, I got lots of calls from my constituents worried that Elon Musk and his Doge or bros now have access to their personal identifiable information. What are the implications of them having this sensitive information in their hands? I know that lawsuits have been pending about that. But what are the implications of not only for everyday Americans, but for our national security, that these unelected, unappointed, no accountability to the American public have access to our information?
Yeah, it's super creepy. You know, in 1974, when Richard Nixon was starting to compile an enemies list and getting personal data from the IRS in order to, I suppose, order audits and other things on his political enemies, Congress, in the aftermath of that lurch towards authoritarianism and the weaponizing of federal agencies, put in place privacy laws that prohibited that. And one of the things I learned I didn't know much about Social Security before the president called me. I mean, I knew the people that work there. I live in Baltimore. Social Security's been headquartered in Baltimore since its founding. But I learned that one of the cultural aspects of the people that have given their lives to serving other people through their work at Social Security is that they have a strong, embedded cultural commitment to protecting the private data of citizens. It's like a religious vow for them. They, on pain of death, would they ever share that data. They are all very well trained on Privacy Act, privacy laws.
Mm-hmm.
And so what precipitated actually the firing of that other acting commissioner was when she said, no, I am not going to give the Doge Bros and the Doge kids unfettered access to all this personal data. Not only is stored in that data all of your earning records and mine from the first summer job we ever had with the W-2, that's in the base of that COBOL green screen system that's been talked about, but also in that database are, get this, people that have to be given new identities. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but if someone cooperates with the FBI to bring down the mob or to bring down a violent drug gang and they need a new identity, well, the last turn in that bend is Social Security. Yeah. If someone cooperated with U.S. forces in Afghanistan or in Iraq against ISIS, or maybe it was an ISIS person that flipped on ISIS and they need a new identity, that goes through Social Security. If the CIA turns spies or assets from communist China or from Russia, and they need a new identity for their own protection, that goes through Social Security.
So it affects our national security. That's what you're saying.
And Mike Astrew, who was the former Social Security Commissioner under President Bush, said the same thing. I was on a panel with him. He was greatly concerned about the risks to national security. The bad actors are not only the fraudsters. The bad actors are foreign adversaries. But let me mention one other thing. By giving them unfettered access to that data and the ability to manipulate things within the data, we are making it possible for it's very hard to live in the United States if you don't have a Social Security number that works.
Yes.
There have been occasionally this big agency which serves, we often say 73 million. That's the active beneficiaries. In truth, we serve every child from the moment they're born in America. Yeah. And so if on occasion, because of the automated alerts that we get from Medicare, CMS, if a person over a certain age no longer bills Medicare, and because of other errors in the automatic uploading of death certificates from the states and the territories, we will on occasion accidentally mark that a person has died who has not died. You heard us refute before the false allegation of the zombie apocalypse that we're paying 30 million people that are 300 years old. That's not true. But it is true that from time to time, we occasionally make a mistake and zap the record of somebody. We call those resurrection cases. And it is very hard. And the amount of grief that causes a person, their bank account closes down, the businesses that we all take for granted that we used to be able to do, we can't do. So there's a very grave concern that with control of Social Security's database, the Doge team and the Musk people and the Trump people will have the ability, in essence, to declare some people who are here in the country legally that they consider undesirable, just kind of zapped. Press a button as if they had died, make their record go away, make it impossible for them to bank, make it impossible for them to work, make it impossible for them to live in the United States. And that's the scary sort of stuff that is starting to happen.
And it's not unreasonable to think that, considering how vengeful our president is. I mean, he's has his own list of folks he wants to retaliate against. But there's this so the claims of fraud. Well, can you talk a little bit about the claims of fraud? And
sure.
There's a myth out there that every undocumented immigrant has a Social Security card and all this. I mean, it was just that there's a lot of stuff out there. So
yeah, they unload. It seems like every week to 10 days they have a new big fraud angle. The first big lie, which we combated, was when they declared that there was a zombie apocalypse, that there were 30 million dead people receiving checks. Not true. That's been audited time and time again, and it's just not true. And the reason for that is, I've mentioned before, we get two different forms of automated alert, and you would probably not be surprised, given how close you are to the people, that that the vast majority of Americans are really honest and hardworking. And even when somebody in their family dies and they're in grief and they're planning a funeral, they will still take the time or go to the trouble to notify Social Security that, hey, my mom died, my dad died, or spouse died. So the zombie apocalypse was not true. The other one they told, to justify turning off phone system and cramming people into Social Security offices to make for a horrible customer experience, was they said, Elon Musk said, 40% of all calls that go to Social Security are fraud. Not true. Not true at all. 1 out of every 3,100 calls. So that assertion also was not true. In fact, if you look at it as a percentage, that works out to 0.0032 of 1% fraud. But the third one you mentioned is illegal immigrants. And this is one they pounded on all during the campaign. They say that the big lie is that illegal immigrants come here so that they can bankrupt the Social Security system by milking the dollars out of the Social Security system. In other words, the illegal immigrants are bankrupting Social Security and stealing your money. The truth of the matter is that people working here outside of lawful permission to be in the United States, so-called illegal immigrants, are prohibited by law from receiving any benefits from Social Security. Although they do contribute $22 billion a year for the rest of us that they'll never see a dime of. Now they conflate that by saying, oh yeah, but once, but purposes can then go apply for state Medicaid depending on the state. Yeah, whatever. That's not what they're trying to make people believe. They're trying to make people believe that all non-citizens, whether here legally or whether here illegally, are milking Social Security and are undesirables and need to get out of the country. It is not true that illegal immigrants receive benefits. They are prohibited, but they do contribute $22 billion to the rest of us.
Yeah, I just want to set the record straight. We say that all the time, but to have you, Governor, just say that this is not true, and these are all fraud. The claim for, I'm not saying that people don't make mistakes in Social Security. I think you said, sometimes beneficiaries may be paid too much, and I know that you, under your leadership, you've made some changes around that. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. We used to the level of improper payments usually ranges around 1%. They've now done away with the division whose job it was to internally to police against improper payments. But for years and years, they and also the Independent Inspector General's office would do analysis, would do huge random samplings to determine our accuracy rate and to help us understand, well, what could we do? What changes could we make so that we don't have overpayments and or underpayments? And one of the cruel policies that President Biden had us change when I was there was that we used to intercept 100% of a beneficiary's check. If we made a mistake, no fault of their own, but we sent them a notice that they didn't understand, or maybe they thought it was a scam and they didn't reply to it, because we always tell people we'll never contact you, but sometimes we will if we make a mistake and it's an overpayment. So we used to intercept 100% of that person's check.
All of the check, the whole check.
All of it. So we changed that default setting to just 10%. Because the purpose of the act is to keep people out of poverty, not to drive them out of their home and under a bridge if we make a mistake. Now, sadly, the Trump and the Doge people changed that policy back. So they're back to the 100% intercept. And you're going to be hearing from those folks that get that flag. Can I say one other thing about this illegal immigrant?
Yeah.
There's a new twist on it. And here's the twist. The twist is that they are trying to portray, when President Biden, during his 4 years, our economy started doing better. We forget he was the president that led us out of the pandemic.
Gave us stimulus.
America and every other country started opening up again its economy. People could circulate, go outdoors, go into businesses without masks, et cetera. And so we saw an increase, naturally enough, of people lawfully emigrating into the United States. It is true that increased. It has long been the requirement by law that when the U.S. Customs Enforcement Service allows a person into the country legally, whether they're an asylum seeker awaiting a hearing, whether they're here on a student visa, whether they're here on a work visa, or for any other lawful reason, they're in the country. An automated process was set up under Donald Trump in 2017 that then has the Immigration Service electronically notify Social Security to send a Social Security number. So when they work, they will pay into Social Security. They're legally allowed to work, and their employers' payments will also go to Social Security. They're trying to portray that as a mass conspiracy by the Biden administration to give Social Security numbers to non-citizens, which in their presentations, they strongly imply are all here illegally, when what they're talking about were the people that came in legally. And they say the reason for that was so they could vote and we would have a permanent blue state. So that's the new twist. They're trying to say that even the people who came here lawfully and legally shouldn't be here, and therefore they're going to be round up. They're going to have their Social Security numbers cut off, and they're going to get deported too. And it starts with a creep, you know? We've seen this in other countries in history before. First, they'll start under the rationale that they're all violent criminals. Of course, a lot of them will be people with speeding tickets. Then they'll say it's this group, then it's that group. And it grows from 6,000 to 100,000 people that they want the records of out of Social Security, to 800,000 that they want the records of out of Social Security. So that's why it's so important that we rise up, that we stand up, that we speak up, that we call our Congress people. And don't forget to call the White House. They're starting to feel the heat of this, of arisen people who don't want their Social Security taken away from them.
I know. And so my last question was just that. I have 160,000 people in my district, 160,000 that of my constituents that rely on Social Security, and they are fearful for all the reasons that we've talked about during this conversation, and they're rightfully fearful. What do you say to my constituents and to the American public about what we should be doing to try to push back against this dismantling of Social Security? I think ultimately they want to privatize Social Security, and they won't be doing it on my watch or any of our watches if we have anything to say about it. And so I know that as House Democrat, we're trying to legislate, we're trying to litigate, and we're trying to mobilize. And that's what this Terri Talk is about. How do I mobilize my constituency around Social Security and fighting back?
Yeah, well, this very service is one of those ways. We have a day of action on April 15th where we're encouraging people. Leader Jeffries has called upon all of us to find that local Social Security office or another place where people are gathering to support Social Security on April 15th. We should not give up on actually calling not only the Congress people that vote generally according to how we would want them to vote, but we should also call our senators. In your state, you have 2 senators. They're both Republicans, but it doesn't matter what they need to hear. And what's really important is that the voices of Americans be heard. You might not be able to persuade them to vote the way you would like on every issue or on many or any issues, but they all know the same numbers of people that you could rattle off are people that receive Social Security. And everybody that gets Social Security gets Social Security. What it is, what the purpose of it is, and that they've paid into it and that they're owed those benefits. So it's really important that your members of Congress, including your senators, hear this. There was an article in The Hill, which is a journal that covers the goings on Capitol Hill. And the headline was, "In closed doors, Senate Republicans say that they want Elon Musk to shut up about Social Security." So that's not by accident. That's because Americans are saying, hey, what are you all thinking? Cramming all of us into field offices, turning off our phone service. Why are you eliminating and taking my money to pay staff to quit in an agency that's already struggling? Also, just people should call the White House, because some of the articles, and there's been great journalism written in the New York Times, Washington Post, and it's talking about the fact that the Trump White House is starting to feel the heat of arisen people saying, what are you doing messing with my Social Security? My wife waited tables for her first, to work her way all through college. And she told me something years ago that I will never forget. She said, there's two things you don't mess with: people's food and people's money. Well, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, by messing with Social Security, they're messing with both. Yeah. They're messing with people's food and they're messing with people's money, because for so many people, the only way that they're able to live is because of that Social Security benefit that they've earned.
Well, thank you so much, Governor. I appreciate your time and really appreciate your leadership. You are an amazing governor of Maryland and an amazing minister of the Social Security Administration. And we miss having you at the helm.
Hey, thank you. I'll be in Birmingham May 10th. There'll be a town hall that I've been invited to on Social Security. So I hope I might see you and some of your constituents then.
Well, you're a great resource and an American patriot, and we're just so honored that you are joining us today. My constituents, stay tuned for the next Terri Talks. Do know that your Congresswoman is fighting like hell to make sure that we have hands off our Social Security. Thank you so much for joining us.